Today is a very special episode of the best decks here on Celio's network. Luke is feeling a little bit under the weather, so I'll be lending my voice to bring you all the best decks of September 2023. This video will include a breakdown of the top 10 decks of the Obsidian Flame standard format, including deck lists, matchup spreads, and more. Don't forget to subscribe for more Pokemon TCG content. And check out the sponsor of today's video, PokeCollect.com. PokeCollect has a wide selection of Pokemon TCG pre-orders, mystery boxes, and more. Use the coupon codes and affiliate links in the description to support the content here on Celio's network. Now, let's get to the top 10 decks of September 2023. Miraidon EX mostly saw success in the Asian circuit until the World Championships, where Andrew Mahone placed 21st with this Miraidon Flaffy deck, notably featuring 4 Path to the Peak and 2 Bravery Charm. This semi-aggressive archetype is more than just a fast lightning type deck. It has the consistent and stable energy acceleration with Flaffy's Dynamotor, Path to the Peak, and Judge or Iono for disrupting the opponent, and unlimited damage output from Raichu V. Miraidon Flaffy's matchup spread is not that bad at all, with its best matchup being versus Chien-Pao and Lugia, and its worst matchups being Lost Zone decks and Inteleon Urshifu. It's jumped to almost 6% of the online metagame, partially due to Mahone's popularity in the community. Charizard EX is the new deck on the block from Obsidian Flames. Understanding and exploring options for Charizard EX decks is a unique experience for players, since Asia has not held any major events since Charizard EX's legality. However, we can look at smaller Asian events such as gym battles and see that plenty of Charizard EX decks are performing well in those. Today, we'll consider the main Charizard EX deck to be Arceus Charizard Pidgeot. But note that Lost Zone Charizard EX has seen a fair amount of play in small Asian events as well as North American League Cups and online events. Since players knew Charizard EX would at least be popular, if not also good, it was immediately countered on PTCG Live and in online events as soon as Obsidian Flames released. Due to the field preparing for Charizard with Path to the Peak and Grass attackers, it hasn't been living up to the hype so far, with pretty middling results in online events. Charizard's best matchups are Mew VMAX, Gardevoir EX, and Lugia V-Star, while its worst matchups are Lost Zone Tina, Arceus Giratina, and Chien-Pao. Chien-Pao Baxcalibur has existed in the gray area between tiers 1 and 2 since its release in Paldea Evolved. This archetype excels in taking one-hit knockouts thanks to Baxcalibur's Super Cold ability, which provides Chien-Pao with plenty of water energy for its Hail Blade attack. This deck isn't much without Baxcalibur, however, so making sure you get to a rare candy Baxcalibur on turn 2 is a stressful factor of the deck that some players would rather avoid. With 2 top 32s at NAIC and 4 within top 32 at the World Championships, it's definitely a meta deck. But just how good is it compared to the rest? Chien-Pao has been surprisingly popular in online events with almost a 10% play rate. Chien-Pao Baxcalibur's matchup spread is less than desirable, however, with several poor matchups including the worst matchup Lost Zone box. Chien-Pao's single good matchup within the top 10 decks is Charizard EX, which was only number 9 on today's countdown video. Arceus Giratina is an old faithful deck at this point. Arceus consistently stabilizes your board on turn 2, while Giratina V-Star is a threatening attacker versus most decks. In addition, you have Path to the Peak and Judge to slow your opponent down while you aim to swing through a few Pokemon and wrap the game up. We've seen several successful Arceus Giratina lists, including grass-type attackers like Superior V-Star to gain the advantage against Charizard EX decks. But if Charizard continues its stagnant performance at the bottom of the meta, these grass attackers will likely fade away. The current data shows Arceus Giratina having a great matchup into Lost Zone box, which is still one of the best decks, as well as having a great matchup against Charizard, which has the new set hype surrounding it. Arctina's worst matchup is Inteleon Urshifu, followed by Lugia and Lost Zone Tina. Next is Lugia V-Star Archeops, specifically the single strike variant of the deck. Many competitive players have grown tired of putting their tournament in the hands of Lugia, since this deck is known for its lack of player agency. meaning the deck is more or less autopilot outside of a couple of decisions each game. That's not to say the deck is bad, the reality is far from it. Lugia boasts positive matchups against 8 out of the 10 decks featured today, with its poor matchups being against Miraidon EX and Charizard EX. Lugia's online meta share has been really low since Obsidian Flames release, but we'll have to wait and see if that changes when we get to real-life major events. Inteleon Urshifu surprised everyone at NAIC when Cyrus Davis took down the largest event in TPCI history with this risky play, feasting on Lost Zone and Arceus decks while dodging Lugia and Mew completely. Alex Szymanski innovated this deck list further, adding Spiritomb and Getkomo to make the bad matchups a little less bad. Out of all 10 decks featured today, Inteleon Urshifu has the lowest representation in an online event, at just 2.36% of the online tournament meta. Yet, according to the weighted matchup data, Inteleon Urshifu has one of the best matchup spreads in the entire field. It has a nearly unlosable matchup against Lost Zone Box, as well as a good matchup into Guardy, Artina, and Miraidon. It struggles against Lugia and Mew, but if the online meta share is indicative of what a regional championship will look, Lugia and Mew will be quite easy to dodge. Gardevoir EX is a curious case. According to Celios's calculations, it really doesn't have any good matchups in the metagame, but its bad matchups aren't really all that bad. This Stage 2 centric deck heavily relies on its pilot's knowledge of the deck and all of its matchups, which is why this deck is up here in number 4, regardless of its poor matchup spread. When the Gardevoir pilot is outplaying their opponent, these 50-50 matchups begin to feel much more favorable than that. In terms of popularity, Gardevoir EX has been going strong online with a play rate of 8.78%. There are undoubtedly many players who still have faith in Gardevoir EX, but aside from its lack of advantageous matchups, it is also prone to ties since it is an evolving deck that has many decisions and actions every turn of the game. Fusion Strike Mew just won the World Championships and is sure to garner popularity due to that. Surprisingly enough, it has less than a 5% play rate in online events since the release of Obsidian Flames. This is likely due to players trying new decks and also being scared of Charizard EX. Mew's best matchup is Inteleon Urshifu, but that is not expected to be too popular, so it's not exactly a great matchup to be advantageous in. Mew's worst matchup is Lost Zone Box, and I think this could be a factor that keeps many players from choosing this deck. Mew is a powerhouse deck that has proved itself time and time again, and should undoubtedly be on your radar for the Obsidian Flames metagame. Lost Zone Box is in an incredible position in the current metagame, whether you decide to play the Turbo version or the Kyogre version. It has pretty great matchups against most of the top decks. One of the qualms with Lost Zone Box is the amount of time it takes to finish a best 2 out of 3 set, which can result in enough ties to ruin a tournament run. Finally, we reach the number 1 deck in the current standard format, Lost Zone Giratina. Lost Zone Giratina is in a unique position because it really can't be countered no matter how popular it gets. This deck has Star Requiem, which can one-hit KO anything, as well as Lost Impact that deals 280, a Shred Attack, Hand Disruption, and Ability Lock, single prize attackers, damage counterattacks, and potential for multiple knockouts at a time. If there's a true counter for Lost Zone Giratina, I have yet to find it. Hope you feel better soon, Luke, and thank you so much for having me on your channel. If you want to see more of me, you can find me on Twitter at PrimetimeWiz or my Twitch/YouTube, PrimetimeWizardTV. With that, thank you for watching today's video here on Celios Network.